So with the president now heading back to the East Coast, we wanted to hear from the chair of the Washington State Republican Party. Caleb Heimlich joins us tonight in studio.
For the first time in a very long time, we're happy to have you here in studio. Thanks for being here, Caleb.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
The president, as you know, is in town the last couple of days. He was here to mark Earth Day. He signed an executive order protecting old growth forests. Is that good for Washington? Is that good for the environment?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think what I wish we would have heard from President Biden, both in his remarks last night at the fundraiser and then today at his public appearances, was more about some of the stories that you just covered. Crime and the impact of that on our communities, fentanyl, drugs crossing the border, what that has done to our communities, and then really inflation. I think as President Biden is speaking in Auburn in front of a banner that says lower costs for American families, that doesn't resonate with what people are feeling in their daily lives as we're dealing with 8.5% inflation. The average American household is spending $5,200 more on the same bill of goods that they were buying a year ago. So these costs are out of control, and I think that's what the people of Washington State are concerned about.
You know, we're all feeling the impact of that inflation, and I can't tell you how many stories we have done on just the gas prices and watching those go. That hits almost everybody who drives right now. And I know the president has tried to take some steps, but we haven't seen those prices come down really at all. Is that something he's got to change?
Absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, President Biden and Democrats are blaming these. They're calling them the Putin price hikes. People know that that's just fundamentally not true. When Putin invaded Ukraine, that was in February. As of February, our gas prices had already gone up over $1 per gallon since when President Biden was sworn in. So I think gas prices, the cost of groceries are really concerning Washington families and American families across the country.
But about gas prices, big oil making a record profits. They are in control of some of the prices, too. So it's not just the president that you can blame for inflation and bringing prices down. In terms of gas prices, isn't corporate greed part of the equation here?
Well, I think, look, if you come at it from the perspective of you think corporate greed is driving prices, then why weren't prices going up under President Trump? I mean, we've seen 8.5% inflation over the last year, gas prices through the roof. And that wasn't happening for the 4 years prior. So I think what happened was when President Biden came into office, he made some conscious decisions. He canceled the Keystone Pipeline. He came in saying we're going to make it harder for oil companies to drill. And that has caused price to go up. So I think the Biden administration bears a lot of the blame for those price hikes.
Let's talk about prescription drugs. That was one of the topics he brought up today. And all Americans want to see the cost of prescription drugs go down. The GOP in Congress has blocked some cost-saving measures that would have not only lowered prescription drugs, but child care, utility bills, et cetera. Can Democrats and Republicans work together to do what the American people would like, which is in part bring down the cost of prescription drugs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, unfortunately, since he came into office, President Biden has talked about wanting to work across the aisle and work with Republicans, but has fundamentally been unwilling to do so. And I think Republicans here in Washington State, actually this past legislative session, led the charge to pass a bill lowering the price of insulin. That was Representative Jacqueline Maycomer from Stevens County that sponsored that bill. And so that is an area that Republicans, I think there is room for agreement on.
I want to ask you one more question. I know we're running low on time, but I think this is an important one because you've got the midterms approaching. You've got a lot of people claiming there's going to be this red tide, and we don't know yet. But do you think it's significant that the president visited the 8th district in Auburn today, Kim Schreier's district? That is the one district that has, that goes over the Cascades. So it's got Kittitas, Chelan, and Pierce and King. I think I've got all 4 of those counties, right?
Yeah, and Pierce and Snohomish as well. But the 8th congressional district is absolutely one of the top competitive congressional races in the country, and will decide, I think, who controls Congress. It's only a 5 or 6 seat margin right now, and I think Republicans have a great opportunity to flip that seat come November. So I think there's it wasn't a surprise that that's where President Biden went, was down to Auburn and in the 8th. So we've got multiple Republicans running, but we're excited for whoever the voters choose in the August primary to unite behind that person and hopefully flip the 8th come November.
Midterms already heating up. It's so good to have you in studio.
Yeah.
The first of many visits, we hope, as we lead into the midterms.
So too. Thank you very much.
Caleb Heimlich, the chair of the Republican State Party. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.